What's that loophole workaround you've been keeping a secret that you can now share because they patch fixed it? I was going through chemo 5 years ago. I started running a fever, which meant an immediate drive to the emergency room. My partner couldn't drive me, so I parked in the deck. However, I ended up being admitted for a week before they could bring the fever down. A nurse told me on the day I was checking out to list the ticket as lost, and the system would only charge me for one full day, $20 instead of 7 days. I worked at a hospital gift shop, and we sold the parking pass tickets. I would always tell people to do that if they were staying multiple days. They would save tons of money. I think paying for parking at a hospital is stupid. Paid parking to go to the hospital. Tell me you're from the United States without saying it outright, then. My company had a contest to help boost recruiting on LinkedIn. Grand prize was a cruise. We got points for various things, but what ended up actually mattering was the amount of new connections you gained, 1 point for each. We all started with like 100. The max was 30,000. I, with the help of my wife, logged into my account, ended up winning with some 27,000 connections in the span of a few months. How? Basically, on the mobile app back then, they would have a feed of Plus Connect recommendations that would refresh scroll infinitely. There was no limit to it. Every other UI for sending a connection request would hit a cap, or you'd get emails accusing you of being a bot. And it turns out nobody on LinkedIn cares if they actually know you or what you say in a connection request, except a couple weird exceptions. Most people just ignore it or say, okay, whatever, sure, and accept. This day, I get so much recruiter spam because of how visible I am. And also the feed is like the dead internet sloppiest of dead internet slop. Small price to pay for a cruise. There used to be these phones at airports that were just a direct line to a rental car place. The thing is, the way old rotary phones used to work was actually hanging up and picking up real fast a certain number of times. If you picked up one of those phones and hung it up 9 times real fast, it would dial an outside line, and you could use it like a normal phone. I heard about this from a coworker who was on whatever program they have where you can still work while in jail. His story was from the military, though, and he'd just dial each number with a series of pushing the hang-up button with his finger, and he could call anywhere. I didn't pay for internet for years because you could renew those Comcast, 1 HR free internet, logins indefinitely with a Mac ID scrambler. As a kid, we would vacation at our grandma's house in Tahoe. Back then, not every person's internet needed a password, so the neighbors had internet that wasn't password protected. We ended up using their internet for years until one day they did get internet that needed a password. It did only work in a few spots in the house, though, so guess that was the trade-off for free internet. Chipotle used to run a promo that gave you a free burrito with the purchase of a gift card. They allowed you to use a previously purchased gift card to purchase a new gift card, so I would just use the same gift card every time to get a free burrito for the duration of the promo. They closed that loophole pretty quickly, or at least they did in my area. So I would show my receipt for the gift card to get my free burrito, and then buy another gift card. So I still got free burritos, and after the promo ended, I'd have 6 or 8 cards with $25 on them. I went to Chipotle often enough back then that it wasn't a big deal to essentially prepay for those meals. In college, you had to buy a parking pass if you wanted to be able to have your car on campus. The pass was a sticker that you put on the back driver's side window, and it was pretty expensive for the full year. There was one year where I knew that for the second half of the year, I wasn't going to be on campus much because of an internship. The school also sold parking passes that were good for 1 semester, instead of the full year, so I bought that instead. What I realized is that the full-year parking pass and the semester parking pass looked exactly the same, except for one small difference. The semester pass had an expiration date in the corner, whereas the full-year pass had that date punched out, like with a hole puncher. So naturally, for the next 2 years, I'd buy the semester parking pass and just put a hole punch through the expiration date and saved hundreds of dollars on parking. They would change the color of the parking permits at my college every semester, but just like solid colors. I Sharpied an old one to the new color and got away with it for the entire semester, until the last week of classes. Got a ticket for altered permit instead of no permit, and the fine was basically the cost of the permit. So close. Back when the Coke rewards were a thing, I used to enter the sweepstakes for the small rewards like $50, $100 gift cards. Everyone else spent their codes on the high-end sweepstakes or direct gift cards or extra Coke beverages. I, on average, won one a month or more for many years. My brother worked somewhere where he restocked Coke products when these rewards were going in. He saved the codes for me. I bought everyone's Christmas gifts with Coke rewards one year. Early 90s university parking passes had scratch-off dates, You bought it, scratched off the month, and in theory you could only use it for that month. I got a silver paint pen and just filled them in as I went along. My teenage self was stoked to save on 11 months of permits per year. This caught on, and they changed the permits a couple years later. 10 years ago, I would visit my girlfriend at her college. The parking garage was $25 for overnight parking. I found out after getting a flat tire that the parking ticket for leaving my car on the street overnight was only $10. Probably saved $500 from this. I got a ticket once in college, and it came in a yellow envelope. I paid the ticket, but always kept that yellow envelope on the windshield and never got another ticket. They just assumed I received a ticket that day already and moved on. Back in the day, NetZero dial-up's free version that had ads and time limits had really crappy programming to know it was free. After the line connected while it was handshaking, it would launch an exe that checked the version and ran the timer and ads if it was the free one. You could just write a batch file to transfer the exe out of the directory to a different folder, and it would blissfully ignore that there was an entire freaking missing exe and just connect with no ads or time limits. I can share now, because I haven't had a modem for a good 25 years. Way back when, at my university in Toronto, the parking ticket machines would accept any cards you put in, including old expired gift cards. I knew someone who would park, swipe an old Future Shop gift card, and be out the door. When the first Stardew Valley concert was announced, I tried to buy tickets, but the demand was so overwhelming that they didn't actually enable the ticket buying screen for the venue. So I hit right, click and view source, located in the header where the ID of the concert was listed, and went to a different buy page on the site. I swapped the ID in the URL, hit enter, and was the first person to buy tickets for the concert in Philly, about 15 minutes before everybody else. Got the literal perfect seats dead center first row of the balcony. Loved it. New York Times website. You click on an article, put it in reader mode, then hit refresh. Full article, no paywall. Back in college, I never got an electric bill after moving in a new apartment complex. After 2 months, I stopped worrying about it. I asked my neighbors how much their bill typically ran so I could compare. I was sure not to leave a forwarding address when I moved out, kept my South Texas apartment ice cold in summer. Years later, I checked and saw I had an unclaimed electricity refund. Not stupid. Losing a $100 refund beats them coming after me for what was probably $2,000 worth of bills over 2 years. For me, it's that you used to be able to skip any ad on YouTube by just pressing the I for info and press stop seeing this ad, and it would just skip every ad. I found it from a meme and I didn't tell a single soul, but now it looks like it's patched across every version and system, sadly. For a while, they patched it on mobile, but it still worked on TVs and game systems, but now they've fully eradicated it. Back when I worked for a bank, you used to be required to bring in new money every month to meet goals. Well, I figured out that if you had 2 people on an account and just switched up whose social showed first, the money in the account would be considered new. Met my goals for months with that simple trick. Used to work for a company that insisted that all employees call 20 customers a day to see if we could sell them anything. Lists of customers were printed out. All workers were handed a portion of the list. Each call had to last at least a minute, as that was decided to be adequate time to perform the call in a thorough enough manner. Everyone hated it because we were effectively cold calling existing customers for an industry where the customers only needed to buy things as needed. I noticed that one member of staff was having no problem with the task, and on passing her desk, I noticed she was making personal calls as she needed. To her daughter's school, the gas company, electric company. She never got into trouble for not making the required calls, but she never seemed to make the calls. The company wasn't checking the phone numbers against the list. All they cared was that a number of calls went out by each desk phone number. I found numbers that never answered directly. Bank of America had you choose from a number of options, and you could choose to hear the options in Spanish too. HSBC had a number for English-speaking and another for Cantonese-speaking customers, and both had the option to hear the options again in the other language, which means you could go from one to the other indefinitely. Local utilities let you enter your account number and have a long time for you to do it wrong and a long time to try again. And I could call my own cell phone on silent and leave myself messages that could be deleted. I was commended on never needing coaching because I always managed to get my outgoing calls done in the first 90 minutes of the day. When it became time for pay raises, linked in part on performance, that other employee and I were the only ones to get the maximum raise. Work smarter, not harder. You can mute gas station ads that play at the pump. It's typically the second button down on the right of the screen. Works sometimes, not always. When I was in college and on the dining plan, We could spend unused money in a few different shops around campus. I forgot about it until the end of the year and had hundreds of unused dining dollars that were just going to go to waste. I discovered the campus Jamba Juice allowed one to purchase gift cards using the shitty currency, so I put like $600 onto a JJ gift card the least day of the semester. I had free Jamba Juice the entire next year, and the store immediately changed the policy such that dining dollars couldn't be sent on cards. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments, you can share your story, and don't forget to check out other videos on my channel.